Whether or not you're a sports fan, you may have noticed a recent poll suggesting 1 in 8 men believes they can win a point off the world-class tennis player Serena Williams. Now, Serena Williams has won 23 Grand Slam titles. She's one of the longest-ranking world #1 female tennis players of all time. So what makes 12% of men look at all that and think, yeah, I could take a point off her? Part of it is overconfidence, something that shows up across other professions too. The stats suggest many women will only apply for a job if they are 100% qualified, whereas men who meet 60% of a job spec will apply. But there's something else going on here too. Every woman has come across the man who just thinks he is better, regardless of actual expertise, experience or qualification. This person is exhausting to reckon with, demoralising and undermining. And judging by the social media response to this story, it seems I'm not the only one to think it's time he got well and truly served.
Oh, the nation roars with laughter as I start this conversation. But so what are you looking for? You want legislation that stops this? You want a quantum shift in how men view themselves? You want society to better police itself? Because, I mean, it is ridiculous. If any bloke thinks they can take a point off Serena, they must be bloody nuts. Netball, I probably could have done well against the England team, but they declined the challenge. They declined the challenge. I did what I could. So what is it you're actually looking for?
You know, you do have an uncanny knack for asking all the wrong questions.
We're going to have a great relationship.
It isn't about what I'm looking for.
Like one of my marriages.
Yes. Oh, please, let's not. There's an observation here about how this dynamic plays out, not just in world-class sport, where we see women at the top of their game, literally, get treated very differently. Their confidence is interpreted differently. Their celebration of their talent is viewed differently. But this also plays out, as I've said, in other professions as well. The interesting thing about this is, you know, this stat that I was showing you about the men who are 60% qualified apply. When you drill down into that, actually, it's not just confidence that's stopping women from applying. It's playing by the rules in a way that men don't think they need to.
I will stop.
Not mentioning a recently appointed Prime Minister, in order to rise in their careers, in their professions.
I want more money for the Navy. Carol wants more money for dementia. What do you want in this area? I don't
think
get
it's about money, Nick.
No. So what is it?
She's making a cultural gender point that across the piece, women are basically put in their box, often by men, if they're seen to be getting out of their lane, as we saw a bit when the US women's soccer team triumphed. So I think there is a bit of that. But I'd like to say something counter to it, which is that we don't want it to go so much the other way that only girls are being encouraged to be confident and to apply for things. So I'm the mother of 2 sons in their 20s. And I think that we have to also acknowledge that, you know, it's not a piece of cake for men to, you know, find themselves and self-actualise and be the best at the moment. And it's not just girls we should be worrying about. Admittedly, though, let's just quickly hear from a former Cabinet Minister, Penny Mordaunt, who at one point was Women and Equalities Minister.
Women work harder, but they earn less and they save less. If you don't want women to end up at the end of their life with not enough pension, with not having saved, with having felt that they've not had the choices in life to really develop their own talents, we've got to actually look at why that is.
What I felt when Theresa May's last PMQs, which I don't know if you all watched, she was asked by Jo Swinson, a female party leader, what her legacy was. And Theresa May said she wanted her legacy...
We've got that clip. Let's show it, because it's worth seeing.
Didn't know.
When I think of girls growing up in Eastern Bartonshire, it is inspiring for them to see women in positions of power, whether that's as First Minister of Scotland or as Prime Minister of our United Kingdom. Can I ask the Prime Minister what advice she has for women across the country on how to deal with those men who think they could do a better job but are not prepared to do the actual work?
I think my advice to all women is actually be true to yourself. Persevere, keep going, and be true to the vision that you are working for.
I mean, I basically agree with you. I think there is, from my experience in organisations and the rest of it, women are less likely to push themselves forward, are less likely to apply for jobs that they think they're going to qualify. Sometimes because they've worked out, and I think quite cleverly, they've worked out, actually, the job they've got is better than that one, you know. So, whereas men seem forever willing to push themselves into middle management, which are the most boring jobs in the world. I suspect it's not just about women. There's a class structure in this as well. I mean, there's a certain sort of male who comes from a certain sort of background, who went to a certain sort of school, who seems terribly confident about what they're going to do in life.
No, I do think there are other factors at play: ethnicity, diversity, you know, class diversity. All these things show up in different ways. But I do think it's interesting what you're saying about management, because quite often I think that women potentially don't go for managerial positions because they know that management requires a certain way of behaving that is not received well when it comes from women, i.e. it's seen as bossy rather than leadership.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to the point of these delusional blokes who think they can take a point off Serena Williams, you know, she could be blindfolded, sitting down, having a glass of wine, and she could still beat them all, knock them out of the court.
But to be fair, 7 of them didn't.
But there were even blokes of 65 who felt they could take a point off a woman who serves at 100 miles an hour. It's a joke. But I think it's what we're talking about. You know, I wish I had the confidence of a mediocre man. Please, God, give me the confidence of a mediocre man. Because you're right. And I remember years ago going... No, I don't. You see, you're wrong. I have a very good friend who's a psychologist, and she says I have something called imposter syndrome. Because I truly believe, and don't all agree at once, that I'm not very good at anything. I
just feel sorry for your psychologists.
That's just called the human condition, Carol. We all feel that.
No, I don't think we all don't feel that. I think men don't
have
feel
that.
Don't men have that?
I know so many men who go home from work on a Friday and think, thank God they didn't find me out this week.
This is not true. And years ago, I went for a paper I was working for. I've never asked for pay rises. I can't do it. And it's exactly about that. I don't think I'm worth it. So I went to see this guy who was in charge as managing editor, and he said, you're the first woman to come and see me and ask for a pay rise in 10 years. Yeah. And he said, women don't do it. And I thought then...
Did you get it?
Yes, I did get it. He gave it to me. He said, you're the first one who's ever done it.
This is something that the former US First Lady, Michelle Obama, has spoken about. Wow. She said in December 2018, I still have a little bit of imposter syndrome. It never goes away. That feeling that you shouldn't take me that seriously. What do I know? I share that with you because we all have doubts in our abilities about our power and what that power is. So this is someone at that level that has that sense that you're describing, Carol.
But in my lifetime, I'm quite an old bloke, in my lifetime, there has been a change, without any doubt. And what will be interesting to do is to measure that change and say, is this still continuing? How long will it take? And also before... I think men have imposter syndrome, just like women, but probably not as much and not as many.
Some do, yeah.
OK, now, there's going to be no shortage of material from our new Prime Minister, Boris Whiffwath Johnson. He's barely taken a step inside number 10, and we already know Bojo will give us golden moments to rival the time he was left dangling 20 feet in the air after getting stuck on the London 2012 Olympic zip wire. And I'm excited to say that due to our fantastic connections, naming no names, the Pledge have managed to get an exclusive insight from the man behind the blonde bravado. Here he is, talking to Sky's Sarah Jane Mee on Sunrise earlier this week.
He's larger than life and very physical, isn't he?
He is. He's also got a way of looking sort of slightly puzzled and bewildered with everything, and this allows this spontaneity to come through. And I think we did see that at the speech yesterday. Yes, this is where we'll have to see the more formal Boris outside number 10 with the lectern in that very official way, the job beginning right here.
Is it just me, or is there something slightly off about our new Prime Minister? Well, I think most of us can agree that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Isn't that right, John Culshaw? For that 10 out of number 10 impression of the most powerful man in the country, John, you are our dead ringer of the week. How good was that? Good or not?
Well, for John Culshaw, and the like, you know, they've already been Mr. The arrival of Boris is a godsend.
Trump any other place?
Because you've just had Theresa May, who you couldn't do.
You couldn't do.
Well, John Ravens did.
And now they'll have great fun. And they'll have good two. Well, it could be. Will it be a good few weeks or a good few years? We don't know.
OK, that's it for this week. But if you want to join in the debate, just search for The Pledge on Facebook or Twitter. And you can now listen to the programme on the go with Apple Podcasts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.